Hey everybody, and welcome to Dynamic Communities Summit Europe event. We are so glad that you would take the time over the last several days to enjoy some amazing sessions by some amazing people. What an awesome community we have, and we're so thankful that you would get involved. We really wanted to be in Barcelona back earlier this year, but obviously we all know that that wasn't possible, and we're so grateful that they were able to flip this event around and still be able to give us some amazing content. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of dynamics, and we always want to make sure that we're staying on top of everything that's going on. So my name is Dustin Domerese, and I am a Senior Solutions Architect for Dynamic Consultants Group. I've got years of experience in the banking industry, manufacturing, finance, wealth management, specifically sports and entertainment, and several just kind of key areas. I've also used many technologies through the course of my career. I've worked with Salesforce, I've worked with Microsoft, Oracle, and many other platforms over the years. So I've been at it for quite a while, kind of back and forth, but mainly focused on the Microsoft community and the Microsoft technologies today. So Power Platform, all of the Azure services, all of those things are what I love and the things that I've been working on recently. And I guess a fun fact about me that's not really related to technology at all, I'm a certified marriage and family counselor, so not really technology related, just something that I enjoy doing to really help give back to the community and help people in need. So the company that I work with right now, I'll give you a shameless plug for them, is Dynamic Consultants Group. And Dynamic Consultants Group is a partner-focused consulting company. And what that means is that we focus on giving solutions to partners to help them reach their customers. There's so many different technologies right now, and Microsoft's moving so fast in the way that they do things that it becomes really difficult for partners to keep up. So what we do is we help them with either staff aug services or just adding new practices to their company that they may have never been able to have before. So those kind of things, if you need some of that, please feel free to reach out. We have offices around the globe. We have consultants based around the globe to be able to help you with those projects. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the project. So what we want to talk about today is really all about how do you rescue a failing CRM project. So we always have things about missing deadlines and project overruns and budget issues, things that kind of give us that signal that the project is not going well. And we all have been involved in some project over the course of our career that kind of falls into that category. But the biggest question is, what do you do to really get those projects back on track? And how do you make sure that you can pull back in budget, back in scope, and get the project team re-engaged? So what I want to do is I want to give you some tips. I want to give you some best practices that you can use to try to get your project back on the rails, or projects that are over budget. How do you get them back in? How do you get people back into scope? I want to try to help you with a little bit of that today. So a lot of what we're going to learn is very basic. There's no new novel concepts that we're going to be going over today, but hopefully some of the little things that we do will help get you back to the point where you're thinking about them, that you're bringing them top to mind, and you're really able to focus on what some of those small things are that you can do. So customers in general have a very utility mindset about the projects. And this is important to understand if you're really going to try to drill down into their thought process and truly try to understand exactly the way they view the project. So in their minds, we should be able to flip a switch, and this new CRM system should help our sales department, should help our customer service department, should help marketing run more efficiently, all of these wonderful things. And as consultants and as partners and as end users and power users, we know that that is sometimes the case, but often than not, it's just about a technology increase. It's about changing the way that your systems work so that way then you can grow into some of those other things. And that's really hard a lot of times for users to grasp because they truly believe that flipping that switch should make their business more efficient. They should be able to enter things in less time. Like it's going to really give us a lot of stuff. But in reality, we know this is how projects really work. What we do is really complicated. Not only are the systems complicated, But man, the customers most of the time have years of experience. There may be interdepartment conflicts. There may be sales that has a completely different expectation and a completely different goal of what the project's for than what customer service or marketing would have. So understanding what all those goals are really important, and helping your customers understand the complexity that's involved and getting down into the detail of everything that you're doing is going to be really important for the success of the project. But all of that being said, that's probably not the most complicated part of a project, and it's certainly not the worst part of a project that causes projects to go off track. The number one reason why things go off track is people. It's you, it's me. It's the people that are involved in the implementation that really make the project hard. You have people that have a long history with a company. They may be new at a company. They may be switching departments. They may have their own goals in their career that they're trying to achieve. All of those things play a factor in whether or not this system is going to be successful for the business. So as you work through these items, and what we're going to do is we're going to give you some tips on how to deal with people, how to work through some of those conflicts that come up as a part of the project, and how to bring the project back on track. So everyone loves a good top 10 list. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch, and I'm going to give you 10 tips to be able to get your project and bring your CRM project back on track. So as a part of this, we're going to talk about what happens before the project, what happens during the project, and what happens at the end of the project or after the project. Those three things are going to be really key to seeing the success of what we're doing. So number one, change management. Everyone loves talking about it. No one really has any idea how to implement it unless you're a change management expert or a change management consultant, and that's all you're doing. But there are some really, really simple things that you can do before the project that really help to get it back on track and will help users to be able to see value in what it is that you're doing and some of the things that you're going to be presenting to them as the project unfolds. So make sure you have a budget for it, make sure that you're planning for it, that you have a good either change management consultant or a good group of ideas that you can use as a part of the project, and those things will really help your project stay on track. Change management, it's key. So the second thing that we'll talk about, and that is throw a party. So many times when you're starting a project, you're kicking off, you're engaging with new users, it makes it exciting if you throw a party. Most of the time as a part of a new system implementation, we encourage them to throw a party, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It could be pizza in the office, but making sure that you are making this exciting about the new system and making sure that implementing a new system is exciting for the people that are going to be using it. And so many times that will help encourage people to be more positive and more motivated as the project unfolds. We've also seen a lot of companies do things like mouse pads and maybe coffee mugs or t-shirts with a project name on it, right? It could be a really cool name. You could theme it something with Microsoft. All of those kind of things are really awesome ways to get the team engaged from the first day. So making sure that you're doing that will help making sure a project doesn't go off track to begin with. Third is all about selecting the right leadership team. So you've implemented some change management, you've thrown the kickoff party. The third thing you want to do is you want to build an amazing team. So there's some really key things that I want to talk about when it comes to building a team. So as you can see from this slide, you have two main roles at the top of every team. You have a visionary and you have an integrator. And I want to talk a little bit about what those are because those are critical to the success of the project. So first of all, the visionary, man, sometimes this person can come up with 1,000 new ideas about a project, but they will draw the project off track really fast. So you've got to rein them in. You have to make sure that you've got an integrator to then keep your visionary in check. And that's the job of the integrator. The integrator may be the most important role in the project. And we call them visionary and integrator more about their role in the project than about who they are or who they report to in an organization chart. Don't think of this as an organization chart. This is a team structure. So your visionary is your idea person. They can come up with a ton of new ideas. They can really draw the project off track, make it go over budget, change the scope every day that you talk to them. You don't want them leading the project. As much as they are most of the time in leadership roles, in senior management a lot of times, you don't want them leading the project because they'll draw it off track, it'll go over budget, you'll go over scope, you'll have change orders like crazy. You want to make sure that you're putting someone in charge and influencing the decision of who's in charge to an integrator. So let's talk about an integrator. Your integrators are the ones that love taking notes. That integrator personality just loves taking all of the ideas from the visionary and putting them into action, putting them on paper so that way the visionary can see what's happening. That integrator gets their energy from executing the vision of the visionary. You know, they may come up with some ideas too, but they're not that idea machine that sometimes a visionary is. So putting them in charge and making sure that they are the ones that's responsible for scope, for budget, and at least have some kind of oversight into what are the high-level goals of the project, that will be so important to making sure that the success happens. And then underneath the integrator, that's where you have all your departments: sales, marketing, customer service, engineering, finance, accounting. All of those different departments would sit underneath the integrator. And you may have a different team for different projects. Maybe you're doing a field service implementation that's separate from a customer engagement versus a Power Apps project. Those can be different teams. But be thinking about who is your visionary, who is your integrator, and who's the one that's going to make the decision for the departments. Those three decisions are critical when you start deciding and building who the project team is. Now, I know a lot of times in our organizations, we just don't have control to be able to say, I want you to be the visionary, I want you to be the integrator. Sometimes that is not our role as consultants or our role as power users or developers. So many times we have to just be the influencer behind the scenes to help try to coach people into their best role. But we'll be watching for it through the course of a project because it will emerge very quickly. Most of the time in our projects, we can tell after 2 meetings who our integrator is and who our visionary is because the personality differences are drastic. And you want to make sure in order to keep your project on track that you're talking to those people and that you're staying focused on what their role inside of the project really is. So number 4. So we talked about throwing a party, building an amazing team. The next thing we have to do is we have to help our business units let go of the rope. And what that means is now that you have decided who the team members are, you have to give them power. You have to give them authority and influence over the decision-making process to truly be able to make sure that they have the decisions made that they need, or that they have the ability to make those decisions. It is so critical. So many times, especially if you've got a really strong visionary in the company from our previous slide, a really strong visionary will sometimes overrun everyone else in the project. And it's critical that you help get the visionary and the integrator into their role so that way then everyone else can be empowered to make the decisions about the project that they need. What fields are we going to have on the lead? How are we going to structure the sales process from lead to opportunity? How are we going to handle onboarding of a new account? Customer service, what does the ticket logging process look like? How do we escalate? All of those questions, you can't have a visionary or even an integrator answering them. You've got to empower your frontline people to make those decisions. And so many times, these are not even people that are in management, in senior level leadership. I encourage all of our customers to be looking for the individuals in their company that are disruptors. People that are always looking for a new way to do something. They may have crazy ways that they've got to accomplish a problem or to solve for an issue in the organization. They're the ones that are really annoying to the IT team most of the time because they've gone off and got subscriptions to Airtable and all kinds of other apps that they're pulling in and they're doing things with. Those are the ones you want to empower. That's what Power Apps is all about. That's the vision of the Microsoft platform, is truly being able to get down into the weeds and give those individuals what they need to make sure the project is successful. And if you put good leadership with visionaries and integrators over top of them and then you move right in to empowering them to make decisions, you will have a successful project, and you'll have a system that people actually want to use because they were involved and helped building it. So number five, as you start to move into the project, as you begin to set what are the outcomes of the project, so we're getting close to really going live and starting to use this thing and starting to get kicked up with our project team, we want to make sure that we're establishing measurable and attainable goals. What does that mean? So think about a measurable goal as something that you can actually put a number on. And it doesn't have to be a number that's fixed or anything like that. You can certainly morph this and make it your own as a part of the project. But just as some examples, number one, you could have a goal that is to eliminate dual entry in 2 systems. So what we used to do in 2 systems, now we want to do in 1. That could be a great goal, because now as we begin architecting things, as we begin going through and making modifications, we know what the outcome is. At any time, if something comes into scope that says we're going to still use this other system, we can immediately fall back to our goal and say, well, that wasn't one of our goals. It's measurable, right? We used to have 2 systems, now we have 1. And is it attainable? That's something for the project team to land on. Another example, we want to reduce the customer service clicks to be able to enter a customer service ticket in 10 clicks or less. And I don't know, this is just an example. You can certainly tailor this. I've seen some companies do it as only be able to enter 5 fields to create a ticket. We need to be able to create and qualify a lead within 3 clicks and 9 fields. Whatever those numbers are, be specific about it. Make sure that you're setting measurable and attainable goals for the project, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to have a compass to look back on and say, are we headed in the right direction with this project and implementation? So many times you get 3 weeks into the project and now you're talking about things that are not even in scope anymore, and they don't really fall in line with what the measurable and attainable goals were. So those goals will really help the project team to stay on track. It'll help your visionary to stay in check. It'll help your integrator to stay in check, and it will really help make sure the project does not go off the rails and become unsuccessful, because a lot of times the beginning of that project is where these things begin to fall down. So make sure that you're really taking that time up front. That is the most critical point in the project. If you're waiting all the way until the end or go live before you really figure out whether or not you're going to do change management and throw a party and set goals and be able to build an amazing team, all of those things, then you've waited too long. You have to make sure you're doing those things up front at the beginning of the project in order to be successful. Another example is we want one form to view everything. So the mythical 365-degree view of a customer that we're all striving for, right? I want to look at one customer record and see everything there is about it. If you know that's the goal, you can begin to architect differently. You design different. Everyone begins to look at the project in a little bit of a different way whenever they know that one goal is the thing that we're aiming at. So make sure that you set measurable and attainable goals with your business to be able to work through any challenges that come up. That'll help you from really falling off track. So as we work through the project, we've done all this stuff at the beginning. We've kicked off the project. We're beginning to work on things, and sometimes some things go wrong during the project. So what do we do? How do we handle the challenges that come up whenever a project begins to go wrong? Well, let me show you some trigger points. Let me give you some ideas about some things that you can begin to see whenever stuff starts going wrong. And these are the things to watch out for. As a consultant, as a customer, as a power user, as an administrator, be watching for these things as signals that your project is getting ready to need to be put on life support. The first thing that happens is they begin to blame the previous partner about things that happen. There are so many times we come in and we're doing an implementation. The very first thing that they say is, well, we had this Salesforce partner in, and they came in and they implemented the system and they just gave us everything we wanted. We don't want to do that again. When you start hearing those things, begin raising red flags, because you want to make sure that you are not going to be that next partner that they're upset at. And more than likely, there are some really bad partners out there, but there's very few. I mean, most partners have some level of competency. They're still in business. They're still doing a good job for some of their customers. So make sure you're challenging that to really get down into the root of why they're dissatisfied, because that'll be something that you can begin to then do different. But watch out for that signal, because it can signal that there's something going wrong with the project. The next thing that they do is they begin to blame the person who had the job before them. So many times, well, it was the previous sales manager, the previous marketing manager, the one who used to manage customer service. All of those, that's who gave the requirements and really started to pull this project off track. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Most of the time, it is never one individual that ruins a project. It's never one individual that puts a project into critical life support need. It's a collection. It takes a team to make a project go south. And we want to make sure that we're challenging that and not just putting everything on the back of those that had the job before us, but challenging those things to make sure that we're really getting into the root and what is really going on so that we can make the project a success. The next thing that happens is they begin to blame the vendor that was selected. So now it's no longer the previous partner's fault, now it's the current vendor's fault or the current partner's fault. Man, it's one of those things that you just really have to be careful about, because you start to snowball. If it's one thing that goes wrong and they begin to blame the vendor, then every single thing that goes wrong from that point forward, the finger's going to point right back to that vendor. So be careful. Make sure you're challenging those ideas that maybe it's not the vendor, maybe it's us. Maybe it's us that needs to have a company look at us and say, are we really ready for this implementation? Are we really doing everything that we can? Have we eliminated our internal politics? All of those things that cause the projects to go south? Are we eliminating all those things to really make sure that we can do this the right way? And then finally, what generally happens is they blame the software. So we should have picked Salesforce. We should have picked NetSuite. We should have selected Oracle. Whatever those questions are, they begin to ask, and the answer is always, it's the other software. Be really careful with that. Watch out for those trigger signals to show that something's not right in that project, because the moment that conflict begins to occur, you need to do something about it. Don't leave it to someone else. Don't leave it to the other vendor. Don't leave it to someone else to be able to go and pull that project back on track. We're empowering you right now. Take this on authority that you are the one that's responsible for bringing the project back on track. Do your best. Make sure you're doing everything that you know, using some of these tips to really make sure that you're bringing that project back as close to the company as you possibly can. But guess what? Most of the time, it's generally the organization that falls down when it comes to implementing software. So challenging these ideas up front will really help you to have a successful project. So number 7, let's talk about this. Everyone needs a war room. Whenever things go wrong, we've kicked off the project, things begin going wrong, we start having budget conflicts, scope conflicts, we can't make decisions, we're past timeline, all of those things begin to happen. The war room should be your friend. Make sure that that room is a safe place for the project team, and make sure that you are going there often. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical room. It can be a virtual Teams room, it can be a Zoom room, whatever technology that you're using. Make sure you have a place where you can go and that you're not rushed, that you can spend time working through these issues. That is going to be critical to the success of the project. Have a place that everyone can get in one room and hash out any issues. Communication, communication, communication. Those are the number 1, 2, and 3 things about how to keep a project on track, and making sure that you have a place where you can go where everyone can talk, and you don't have to have multiple meetings. You don't have to have this meeting with sales and this one with customer service and this one with marketing. You have one place that everybody can get in a room and say, we're all here, the team's here, the visionaries here, the integrators here, we are ready to make this decision. Let's get it done. Those type of environments will save a project in almost every case of a challenging issue that comes up. So don't be afraid to do that. As consultants, a lot of times we're really good at setting meetings. We're not necessarily that good at facilitating good conversation. So make sure you're developing those habits and putting them into practice in that war room. So number 8, another party, right? So everyone, again, gets super excited when it comes time for go live. Generally, what happens at time of go live is you're starting to get into budget crunches. You're starting to get into the point where people are getting nervous about turning off the other system. You may have other systems that are beginning to expire, licenses that need to be renewed or expired, databases that are getting old. All of those kind of things begin to happen the closer you get to go live. And that's normal, right? Our intent here is to turn off that other system and turn on this one. Or our intent here is to be really close to budget. We didn't want to over budget by $1 million, right? Budget should be tight. We're at the end of the project. So make sure you're setting those expectations, communicate about those, and then when you get ready to go live, throw a party. It should be exciting to go live. All of the training that you're doing should just be a part of the excitement of go live. Making sure that you have everyone there. Again, it could just be a pizza party. You don't have to have confetti and hire a DJ or bring in a band, but what you can do is simple things like a pizza party, like bringing in somebody to give a quick demo of what's going on. And the other thing to think about is through the course of implementing this project, you can make things exciting as you go. You could do a company newsletter that kind of gives people updates as to what's going on in the project. You could also do things like pre-release some screenshots. Here's what's coming. Here's the things we're working on together. All of those kind of things. Some videos, or have someone come in and shoot some photos of your working sessions and your meetings, your teams meetings. All of those kind of cool things will really help drive excitement. So then they are ready for go live. As soon as you get go live happening, you throw a party, it's time to go live, everyone will be excited about the next step. So number 9, well, we've planned the project, we've built an amazing team, we've thrown 2 parties now, if you're keeping track, and all of these things that have happened, even with all the conflict, we're now ready to go live. We've gone live, we've trained the users, everything's good, we're all done, right? Everything's finished. No, not even close. So number 9 is all about what happens once the project is over. This is where the work begins. You need to be setting up quarterly meetings on the project to be able to review where we're at. You can set up weekly meetings with some of the key users to talk to them about how they're doing, building new dashboards for them, helping them with their views, continued training. All of those things need to be set up in advance. Most of the time as consultants, we're hired, we get in, we get the job done, and then we're right out the door to the next project. We can't have that anymore. We need to be constantly in communication with our customers, constantly in communication about these projects. That is the only way to keep them on track for a long time. So many times I've seen companies, they go live, they're excited, the system works, we've all tested it, it's ready to go, and then immediately following that, 3 or 4 weeks later, nobody's using the system. Well, it's because we don't have that recurring problem solving. We don't have that recurring theme of meetings and training and continued work on the system. This is also a great way as consultants to be able to build that second set of work, the backlog of items. All of that can happen within the sessions that you schedule immediately following go live. So it's just a really great way to already start planning it. Don't wait till the very end. Put these meetings on the calendar before go live. Make sure that you're planning in advance for this type of continued work. It will really help making sure that the user adoption part of the system happens even after go live. You've been doing this, you've set up the recurring meetings. Let's talk about number 10. What happens if everyone still isn't using the system? This does happen. And I know a lot of times you then end up getting another vendor or another software product selected, and what happens is people just kind of keep cycling through it. I think the statistic says something like 5 to 7 CRM systems that a company will implement before they really get it right. And those kind of things, the reason why is because you're just not making things stick. So the way you make it stick is by planning up front, by executing well in the middle of the project, and then staying consistently engaged at the end. But you will always still have some individuals that just need more encouragement. They need some help to stay motivated. They need some help to be able to continue using the system. So what do? Well, there's two different approaches. There's the carrot approach, right? Maybe we're going to give you a prize if you use the system. We're going to encourage the right behavior. The person who enters the most activities this week gets a gift card, or the person who enters the most leads next week is going to be able to get a new laptop bag, or whatever those kind of things are. You can create that gamification and those incentives around some of that to encourage the right behavior. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to buy a gamification system. There's some really cool ones out there. Some of the fantasy sales team type add-ons are really neat, but you can do this with just simple dashboards and some flows that kind of read data and write data in different places whenever something happens, and you can use that to then go back and pull some reports and see who's winning. Those kind of things will really help boost the momentum after the project. The other thing you can use is more of the stick approach, right? You're going to get in trouble if you don't enter your leads or your activities. If you don't go in and update the ticket status of your cases, well, then you're going to be in trouble. Or when we get in and we look at a sales meeting or a customer service meeting and we're doing a review, if you haven't entered it, it's not in CRM, then we're not talking about it. Well, these should really be last resorts, because if you notice, this is number 10 on the list. We've already gone through 9 more things that you should have done along the way to make sure this project is successful and that you get it back on track. And after 9 things, hopefully you're only dealing with a couple of individuals that you have to do this with. But here's the trick. The trick is, most of the time, this is where people start thinking about what to do when the project's off track. No one's using the system. So what happens is no one's using it. Now we start talking about user adoption, we start talking about training, we start talking about all the different ways to bring it back on track. This is the wrong time to be thinking about how to bring it back on track. We're too far. It's too far gone at this point. You probably will need either a change in vendor or a change in software to get it back on track. But what we can do is, if we've done all those other things, we've tried our best, we're now only working with a handful of individuals, you can then use the carrot or stick approach to be able to kind of bring those final individuals back on track. So your project hopefully doesn't get on life support, right? Hopefully everything that you do stays amazing and your customers love it. But man, why is getting the right answer so hard? Why is everything that we do got to be so complicated? And the easy answer to that question is because it is hard. What we do is complicated. There could be more than one right answer to every question in everything that we do. More than one technology that's the right answer for every solution. Microsoft has built an amazing ecosystem of Power Apps and Power Platform and all of the great business applications and Azure platform that they've built over time. And that entire infrastructure is an amazing tool to be able to use, but it also adds a layer of complexity that just makes it hard to get the right answer. And then when you throw people into the equation, man, that just makes it more difficult to be able to get the right answer a lot of times. So what you want to do is you want to build an amazing team, empower your people to make decisions, throw some parties, do the training, make sure you've got a war room to tackle those conflicts that occur, make sure you're implementing change management processes, really get down into the people part of what you're doing, because that is truly the way to bring your project back on track. I really hope that some of these simple tips today encourage you to think about what you're doing a little different. Maybe even unlock some ideas in your mind about the ways that you're going to be doing things and the ways that you're going to be implementing your system going forward. And if you're already halfway into an implementation and you want to bring things back on track, you can use some of these same tools. A lot of times you'll have a new project that spins up specifically for a new Power BI initiative or a cool Power App that everybody has a good idea about something that we're going to build. Those kind of things will help give you a starter point to be able to implement some of these practices without them feeling too crazy to your users. So be thinking about it. The newsletter, the constant communication, the war room idea, all of those things can be things that you begin doing right away to make sure that you're resuscitating your CRM system, making sure that you're bringing it back to life. It may be dead on the operating table today, but we want to make sure that we're trying our best and doing everything that we possibly can to revive it and get it back to the point where it's usable and that people love that system. Thank you so much for taking the time today to listen to me ramble. I could talk about this stuff forever, and I thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time to talk about some of these things today. If you'd like to know more information, I do have a QR code here up on the screen that you can scan. If you scan that with your phone, it will take you to our website where you can put in your information, and I'll send you a copy of the PowerPoint deck as a part of this. So that way you've got some of these ideas you can begin to implement right away. So if you'd like a copy of the PowerPoint deck, or if you'd like my contact information, just scan that QR code, enter your information into that form, and that will give us the ability to reach out to you and send you that information. Thank you so much for being involved. What an amazing conference this has been. We thank everyone for your involvement. Without the community, these sessions and these types of events would just not be possible. Amazing speakers. I'm so honored to be able to be one of the ones that's amongst so many awesome MVPs, so many awesome speakers that Microsoft and the community has put together. It has been an amazing time. I wish we could be together in Barcelona, but until next year, we'll hopefully see you then. Thanks and have a wonderful day.